The council meeting will please come to order. Would you rise and give your attention to Councilwoman Della Isla for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Pastor Gary Smith from First Southern Baptist. Mr. Smith is my constituent. He is in District 5, and he is proof of the caliber of the beautiful people we have in our community. Our relationship started in a very heated time in our city council making some decisions, and we were both on very opposite sides, but we decided to talk, and it was really nice to see how the Spirit of God just permeated the conversation, and from that became a friendship. So thank you, Pastor Gary. Could you please lead us in prayer?
Thank you. Let's pray. Dear God, we come before you tonight, the God of heaven, and acknowledging your greatness and your majesty. God, we ask that you would lead and guide every man and woman here tonight, whether they sit on our council, whether they lead as our mayor does, whether they have words to share that are on their hearts and minds for issues that are important to them. Father, I pray that you'll calm every fear and that everyone will be able to be clear. And God, we thank you for this council. We thank you for their sacrifice that they make and the many hours that they pour in. And we thank you, God, for our mayor, for raising him up to lead in this time. And God, we're asking that you would grant them wisdom and understanding. And God of heaven, we thank you that you desire so much more to be a part of our lives than even we understand. So thank you for your leadership and your guidance tonight. Thank you for this Christmas time. Thank you for the privilege to be able to come before you and honor you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we have a proclamation, and it deals with the Troy Scroggins Award. Joining me here is Lorene Williams, Chair of the Human Relations Commission, Stephanie Mott, Chair of the Awards Committee, and Timothy Smith, who is here to accept it on behalf of the Equity Council of the School District. And just some background, Troy Scroggins was a champion for equitable treatment for all people, and this award honors a group that is following his example. Civil rights were Mr. Scroggins' life work, and the Topeka Public Schools Equity Council has picked up the torch. Its mission to eliminate race as a predictor of academic achievement promises better futures for all Topeka students. Mr. Scroggins was a leader in equal opportunity in housing and employment. The Equity Council brings that same commitment to its efforts to forge a better future for all Topeka students. The Human Relations Commission is charged with a mission of outreach and educational activities that promote justice and cultural understanding and improve relationships among all citizens of the city of Topeka. This award is just one of the ways the Commission brings attention to groups and individuals who work for equity in Topeka. And then, as I said, accepting the award on behalf of the Topeka Council is Timothy Smith, a parent liaison from Ross Elementary. And before we honor, would the other members of the Equity Council please stand? Thank you very much for attending. Now I will let you present this to Timothy. And Stephanie will make some remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the City Council as well, and for entrusting us with the mission of the Human Relations Commission, which everyone is very dedicated, and we work very hard to try to recognize people who are just outstanding and organizations that are just outstanding in helping eliminate prejudice and create more equitable situations for all of our citizens. We are absolutely thrilled to present this award to Timothy Smith as representing now the Topeka Public Schools Equity Council, who absolutely just embodies everything that it is that we try to represent when we look for someone to receive this award in the name of Troy Scroggins. Mr. Smith? There is a
Plaque. Here's a certificate.
certificate.
There you are. You have it. Hold that close.
Well, I'm honored to receive this award on behalf of the District Racial Equity Council. I want to thank Mayor Dawkins, the Mayor himself, City Council, and the Human Relations Commission for recognizing us with this award. Mr. Scroggins' life is dedicated to racial justice and human rights, and it's an honor to receive this award in his name. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the district school board president, who was the one responsible for giving us the framework by which we can do this work, and also the leadership provided by Superintendent Ford and Assistant Superintendent Tammy Austin, who had the courage to initiate this work in the district and saw the value of recognizing every single student that they deserve a quality education. I want to recognize every member of the Racial Equity Council, past and present, whose diligence and work has gone a long way toward making some of the significant changes that we've done in the district around equity. And lastly, I want to dedicate this award, this Troy Scroggins Award, to every single student in USD 501. We have some very brilliant students, and I want to recognize our students of color in particular, who remain underserved, undereducated, and whose humanity remains not fully recognized in the system of education as it stands right now. And we're working to reverse that trend, that pattern that has remained since there's been in America, in this country. So, and lastly, I want to dedicate this award to the families of Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Sean Bell, Eric Garner, and the thousands of other African Americans who are slain in this country every single year by vigilantes and law enforcement. We must continue to fight for the right to live. We must continue to fight for their right to be. We must not let their names be forgotten and discarded in the trash bin of history. We must learn lessons. The things that have polarized people to go out into the street, we must learn these lessons so that we don't repeat that history. And lastly, we must fight to ensure that every American, every child has a right to realize its fullest potential, and that skin color no longer determines who has the right to live or die in this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That completes the presentations. We'll proceed with the roll call.
Mayor Wolgast?
Here.
Ms. Hiller? Here. Mr. Brown? Here. Ms. Ortiz?
Here.
Ms. Everhart?
Here.
Ms. De La Isla?
Here.
Mr. Manspeaker?
Here.
Ms. Schwartz? Here. Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
And Mr. Harmon.
Council members, there are no additions or deletions to the agenda. There will be an executive session following the meeting. We'll proceed with the consent agenda. If the clerk would read.
A is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Franklin Young to the Topeka Housing Authority Board of Commissioners for a term ending December 31st, 2018. B is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Neil Dobler to the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority Board for an unexpired term ending November 30th, 2016. C is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Brian Falk to the Topeka Landmarks Commission to fill an unexpired term that ends on February 28, 2015. D is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Merle Rydell to the Topeka Landmarks Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2017. E is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Jeff Carson to the Topeka Landmarks Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2017. F is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Rosa Cabezos to the Topeka Planning Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2017. G is minutes of the regular meeting of December 9th, 2014, and there are 4 dance hall license applications. One for Flamingo Bar and Grill located at 2335 Northwest Clay Street, Sasnak Bar, 1834 North Topeka Boulevard, Serendipity at 824 North Kansas Avenue, and Skivvy's Bar and Grill at 921 South Kansas Avenue.
Thank you. And 2 points on the appointments. The first A, the board appointment to Topeka Housing is a reappointment. And also on the next one, B, Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority, the year was put in incorrectly. It's the unexpired term ending 2015 rather than 2016. What is your pleasure? Councilwoman Della Isla moves to approve. Councilwoman Schwartz seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the consent agenda is approved. And I believe the 4 new appointees are with us this evening. Neil Dobler, if you would stand, for the Metropolitan Topeka Airport Authority. Brian Falk, new appointee to the Topeka Landmarks Commission. Jeff Carson to the Topeka Landmarks Commission. And Rosa Cavazos to the right here, Topeka Planning Commission. Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. It is appreciated. And that does complete all of the appointments for the end of the year. I'm sorry, I didn't know, is Merle here? Please stand. Merle Riddell, his is a reappointment. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed you. We will then proceed to the action items. 5A is a resolution on the neighborhood grants.
A is a resolution introduced by City Manager Jim Colson approving the 2015 Neighborhood Empowerment Grants as recommended by the Neighborhood Empowerment Grant Committee.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask Mr. Reef to come forward and present information on this item. Approval would actually allocate $145,000 and $145,195 to 6 projects. Mr. Reef will walk through what those projects are.
Reef.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As part of the 2015 Consolidated Plan and City Budget process, this body set aside $150,000 of the Community Development Block Grant funding for a program which we call the Neighborhood Empowerment Program. H&D solicited applications from the NIAs this past summer. We had a review committee consisting of 4 representatives from neighborhoods who did not apply, and 3 city staff that reviewed, scored, and made recommendations that are before you tonight. So real quickly, I'm going to run through the projects, kind of going north to south, if you will. So our first neighborhood, the Ward Mead NIA, looking at the Harrison Street sidewalk. In 2012, the neighborhood went through and inventoried all the sidewalks in their neighborhood and determined that the 200 block of Harrison needed some brick repair. So before you tonight is a project for $17,500 to do brick replacement. The Ward Mead NIA also submitted an application for solar street lighting in the amount of $36,000. This will place solar lights in an area between 4th and 6th Street and between Lane and Topeka Boulevard. The NIA and engineering staff will work together to determine the exact location of those projects. Tennessee Town Kings Court improvement. This is it's a couple of basketball courts as well as some play structures at the corner of Munson and Lincoln. This will provide $11,428 to replace the play surface under the existing play structure. The Central Park NIA submitted a couple of different applications. I kind of grouped them into one here. They are making improvements to the Central Park, which would include a sidewalk bleacher pad on the west side of the track, and then a climbing unit, swing, and safety service to the east. One thing I do want to toot our own horn at H&D about, these projects on the east side there are on the back door of a couple of infill projects that we developed. The Chesney Park neighborhood, their first project is a sidewalk on 19th Street between Washburn and Lane. We previously put in curb cuts in that area, so this is to kind of continue those efforts. That project is slated for $16,000. The Chesney Park NIA also submitted a pedestrian crossing light on 21st at 21st and Fillmore. On the northeast, you have Rose Villas Apartments, and then on the southeast, on the other side of 21st, we have a brand-new bus shelter that the Metro put in. And that one is for $20,000. The Valley Park NIA put in a project for neighborhood signage to kind of delineate where their neighborhood is. They will be placing 2 signs on Chunga Drive on the east and west sides of the NIA. So you're looking at roughly Randolph and Washburn. That project for $868. And then our final project, is the Highcrest NIA making improvements to Betty Dunn Park, just off of Adams. This one was recommended at $22,000 and can potentially include a walking trail, swing, table, bench, and play surface. Again, the NIA will work closely with Shawnee County Parks and Rec to finalize the exact projects and where they go and all that. With that, staff recommends approval of the resolution, and I stand for questions.
And these are all infrastructure type projects. It's limited to.
Correct.
That's what they are, and that's what we're doing with it. Are there questions, Councilwoman Del Isla?
I would move for approval.
Before we have the motion, we have someone for public comment.
I have a question.
Are there other questions from the council? Yeah, Ms. Ortiz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brad, let's go back to Chesney, the pedestrian light. Is that going to be a flashing light? I mean, it's a much-needed crosswalk, trust and
Right.
believe. But I'm just wondering, how, is it going to be a flashing light? Is it a solar light? Because I've heard it's a newer light, and I don't quite understand.
The exact details will be worked out as engineering does the design on it. But typically, these things have been activated, they're user activated, so as someone needs to cross the street, they'll go up, push the button, and then that'll start the flashing lights.
So we don't know if it's solar or not?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that, because those kids crossing there, I don't know how many calls I get and complaints. It's terrible through there. So anyway, if somebody just told me it was solar, and I'm like, wow, I never heard of that. So thank you, Brad. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there other questions? Okay, we have a person signed to speak, Joseph Ledbetter.
Governing body, I'll make this very brief. I just support this item, and thank you for your support. And Highcrest will certainly improve that park a lot, and a lot of kids use it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councilwoman Del Isla moves to approve the resolution. Deputy Mayor Everhart seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the resolution is approved. We go to item B, ordinance on expenditures.
B is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Jim Colson allowing and approving city expenditures for the period of November 1st, 2014 through November 28th, 2014, and enumerating said expenditures therein.
Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Approval would authorize city expenditures in the amount of $16,602,289.89.
Thank you. Are there questions on the expenditures? Councilman Brown
Not a question, move to approve.
moves to approve. Ms. Del Isla seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the ordinance is approved. Item C, I believe there are applications.
There are 4 retail cereal malt beverage license applications. One is for Hooters located at 6100 Southwest 10th Street. 2 is Lupita's at 732 South Kansas Avenue. Saznak Bar, 1834 North Topeka Boulevard, and Wild Bees at 1630 Southwest Arvonia Place.
Mrs. Ortiz moves to approve. Mrs. Del Isla seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no. I vote yes.
We have 10 yes.
10 having voted yes, the applications are approved. That completes the action items for this evening. We will proceed to the non-action items. The first is a discussion. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We would like to have a very brief discussion and touch on 2 points. I'm going to ask Mr. Sublette to talk about the status of the bonds and specifically speak to the appeal and the impact of the actions that occurred within the last couple of weeks. And then upon his completion of that portion, I will talk about the RFP and where we stand and just make sure that we're managing everybody's expectations in terms of what the city is trying to accomplish through the RFP process and what we're protecting ourselves against also.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, council. Where we're at in the process, and it really is a process discussion, is that Mr. Emming, through his counsel, filed for a stay with the appellate court. The appellate court acted very quickly in setting deadlines. We've responded. We had to respond by yesterday at 5 o'clock, which we have. They've already assigned a panel to the case. How the appellate court hears cases is in panels of 3, and they've already assigned the panel of 3. So we expect them to rule on this pretty quickly, but it's the Court of Appeals, and they'll rule when they rule. But we think with how things have gone that this will go relatively quickly. How that impacts the bonds is we had discussion with bond counsel and our financial advisor and our director of financial administrative services. And while that stay is pending, it would affect the marketability of the bonds. So that's why that item had been removed. We anticipate that it'll be back before you. Hopefully the middle of January is kind of where we're looking, but it's going to depend on how quickly the Court of Appeals moves forward. Again, we expect it to be quickly, but we can't give you any exact dates at this time. So that's where we're at in terms of process and how that affects the bond sale. We're still looking at getting everything hopefully before you so we can meet our terms of our memorandum of understanding by February 1st. And I've been in contact with all the parties. All the parties are understand what's going on at this point. So,
Are there questions for the city attorney? Councilwoman Schwartz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a very delicate issue that we've been dealing with, and I've had a couple of questions about how the bidding process went about, and I know that we had some trouble getting the financials from Jayhawk Racing for the last 10 years. Did the financials go out with the bids that people could actually, that were bidding, could actually see the financial status of Heartland Park?
I don't know if that's a question. No, the Jayhawk Racing financials did not go out with the bids. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yes.
So I guess my follow-up question is, how would the bidders know, I mean, on operating the park, if it was going to be successful or not, if there was no financial records that went out with the bid?
I believe that would be a question that could be answered by the bidders, but in our interactions, I believe each bidder's done their own financial analysis of what they believe the value of Heartland Park is and what they could expect to receive from that, they've relied on their own financial teams to make those determinations for themselves.
And I have one follow-up question then. The NHRA contract, is that with the city and NHRA? Because I know I asked a question before about if the event doesn't cover the costs, there's a 1.8 million, and you said that would be covered by whoever the operator of the track. So can you explain how that NHRA contract works?
Yeah, I think I can explain part of it, and maybe the city manager would want to speak to part of it as well, or the financial team, but it's a contingency contract. It's a contract that's contingent on us acquiring the property, following through with the plan, and then whoever, and that was part of the bids that went out, whoever would be the winning bidder would have to meet the terms of that NHRA contract. Again, it's contingent on us acquiring the property. So at any time, if we don't acquire the property, if this body would vote not to do that at some point, then that NHRA contract wouldn't come to fruition. But whoever would take over the park would be responsible for the contract at that point in time, and that was a requirement of the bids as they went out.
Just one more then. I've gotten lots of emails both directions with supporting buying the track, or not buying the track, but supporting Heartland Park, and those against. And one of the emails indicated that if it was managed properly and there were more events held at the track that were not even related to racing, that's a possibility. Do you know if any of the bidders have any of that experience in event planning and bringing that type of thing in?
I could ask, if you don't mind, Councilwoman, if the city manager could address that.
Mayor and council member. So from the beginning, we've talked about, I was going to talk about the RFP process, so we'll use this as a roll into that. But throughout the RFP process and throughout talking about what the expectations of the city were, we broke the track into 4 different elements, and that would be the dirt track, the road course, the drag strip, and the remaining land that's development. And as we've evaluated, and understand we're very early on in the process, but as we've evaluated, we're very much focused on somebody who's going to bring a comprehensive approach to this, because you can't have a facility that really is built around one weekend. We're really focused on working with, attracting somebody to take over the track who really understands that this really is a 12-month business. For this to work, it has to be an economic tool. So the simple statement is, yes, we have highlighted that as part of the ask, and you would see that in the RFP. And the responses that were very early into looking at, we focused on those that have addressed that as an issue.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Councilman Hiller?
Going back to the first point about the court case and the issuing of the bonds, there was an announcement that went into the paper this morning about the issue of the stay and the requirement by the court that someone who wants to appeal a case like the one that we're involved with, because there's so much money at stake if they stop the action, is required, and I'm paraphrasing, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there's so much money at stake when some individual who has the right to sue is going to get in the way of somebody else's business, that there's a requirement that a bond be put up. And I've gotten some direct response as well as seen some public response, that some of which actually has bordered on outrage about the dollars involved. It seemed pretty straightforward to me that Core First Bank would name the number in terms of how much money they were due and something related to that, and that the city would identify the total dollars that really were at risk in this transaction. Can you address that a little bit more? I imagine people are watching that want to understand why those numbers were out there and why they were so different.
The Councilwoman Hiller, I think what you're speaking to is what in legal terms is a supersedious bond, that under the statute, once a municipality, there's a decision in their favor, if you're going to stay that action of issuing bonds, you're required to put up a bond. And the court determines what that value is. How we arrived at our number is, what is the value of this project to the city in the long term? The $18 million in the expanded district, the $5 million in bonds that would be issued. And the land has been valued at $15.1 million and transactional costs. So when we look at it, it's if we were prevented to go forward and lost this opportunity, that $46 million number in the paper is what the city stands to lose. And so if you're going to prevent somebody from going forward, you have to post that bond. If the other party would lose that appeal, then the city would be entitled that money, because that's the loss that the city could potentially face. the different entities have different amounts of skin in the game to kind of repeat what's been said. But the city, if this deal doesn't go through, we're looking at a $46 million loss, so that's how we arrived at that number.
Thank you. It seemed so straightforward, but I think people needed that explanation. If anybody here thinks that we need further explanation for the public, please speak up. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments on the discussion? We have one person to speak in
Mr.
public.
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
I would
You
like
you
to.
had other, that's right, I'm sorry, you had other comments.
I should have just
We
let it go.
moved on.
All right.
We're
So,
ready.
and I'll do this very quickly. So the RFP was put online and it closed on this past Friday at 2 o'clock. At that point, we distributed those to the team internally that's taking a look at it, which consists of myself, the city attorney, Mr. Gerber, and Mr. Euler. And we took them home over the weekend, and we made notes on the various responses. And what we've been doing today and yesterday, and will continue throughout this week, is to talk to the respondents and just clarify their their proposal, to try to understand what did they mean by this, and help them understand the expectations. And going to Councilmember Schwartz's, making sure that they understand what we're willing to do and what we're not willing to do. And we've been very clear, the city's not going to invest back into this. We're not, number one is none of the people that responded asked for a management fee. There's nobody who said, okay, city, people have talked about it, but we've been very clear all the way through that we're not going to pay somebody X amount of money to run this on behalf of the city. This is the only way that we will go forward with this deal, is if the city has no financial risk, and that if this is in the long-term best interest of the city. And it's our job over the next couple of weeks, I understand there's a couple holidays during that time frame, but what we want to do is by January 6th, come back to this body and say, here's our recommendation. Here's a partner, an entity, whatever we call it, that has an interest in Heartland Park, and these are the terms and conditions of the deal that they want to proceed. If we don't come up with somebody who meets the expectations that have been established by this body and have been communicated several times, we'll tell you. And at that point, appropriate decisions will be made. But we've been very clear that we're not starting a Department of Racing, we're not paying a management fee, we're not going to jump in and be obligated for the NHRA contract. People will have concerns with a lot of things, and we'll deal with them over the next couple of weeks. But when it comes back to this body, we will not worsen the financial conditions and the security of this particular body and this city.
Thank you, that's important information. Would you want to give the title of Mr. Euler?
Mr. Euler is the procurement manager.
Right.
Is that correct? I might be
Or
close.
oversees contracts and bids?
Yes,
and
he
things
is
like
he
that.
is the person who makes sure that when we deal in procurement issues, that he makes us legal.
Okay, very good, that's important. Other questions, comments? Then we have one person for public comment, Leo Hafner.
Yes, Leo Hafner. My address is 6115 Southwest 38th Street. I've been here before. I'm kind of like gum on your shoe. You can't seem to get rid of me. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things, one of them being the agreement with the NHRA. I was one of the people who saw that on the website and read it and began to raise some questions about it. And I sent emails to a couple of the commissioners asking them or council members, asking them if they were aware of some of those provisions, which I find a little bit shocking, actually. And shortly thereafter, that agreement came down off of the website. To me, that smells a little bit. It sounds like we're trying to hide something here. And so I just wanted to make everybody aware of that, and I wanted it to be on the record. Because I just don't think that's a sense of fair play. And I think the citizenry are starting to get a little bit suspicious of this government and what's going on here. So I wanted to say that. With regards to Chad Sublet's response about the operator is responsible for that agreement. Again, it's not up there. I didn't go back and reread it today, but my recollection was it talked about the track being responsible for that and defined that as the city and/or the operator and made them jointly and severally liable on that, which means if one doesn't pay it, the other one does. So if you've got an operator who can't meet those obligations, city's on the line for that. So people need to be aware of those things and be thinking about that because there's potential liability in the future on that. I would also address the notion, because I almost laughed last night on the news when they talked about none of these people are charging a management fee. You can call it what you want to call it, but these people are not going to do this for free. You have personnel involved in this. You're going to have a head guy or gal or whoever who's going to be responsible for any one of these management companies. And you're going to have some associated people, either full-time or part-time with them. Their salaries have to be covered. There are going to be associated expenses that have to be covered by that. It may come out of profits from the events that happen at the track. However you structure it, it's a management fee. So, you know, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And so I just want to make that clear to people that unless these people are volunteering their time and going to do this for free, that's a management fee. So to me, again, it's this culture of let's call it something else and try to make people believe that what we're going ahead with is forthright and whatever. And all I want, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do, but, you know, at least be honest with people about it. And my time's up because I say a lot more.
Well, you have 1 minute.
Okay.
You finish.
I'm losing my track now. It just, well, and the other comment that I would make is we've been told that we are only going to hire a management company that has a strong track record of running a track. Well, I'm only reacting to what I read in the paper this morning, and all I would say is this scares me because I'm not seeing that in what we've gotten in the bids so far. So if we're going to pick one of those, good luck.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your comments. That completes the non-action items, the discussion on the STAR bonds. We will then proceed with announcements. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to introduce Sasha Stiles. Sasha, if you don't mind standing up, grab her side.
Turn your mic.
Sasha is the newly hired. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Sasha Stiles. She is the newly hired Neighborhood Relations Director, and she will start on December 22nd. We announced her hiring in October. She is coming to us where she was a city administrator in Andover, just outside of Wichita, and she's been there since 2008 and has a tremendous amount of experience. She is going to work with the Topeka neighborhoods by implementing redevelopment, revitalization, property maintenance code projects. Really what we were looking for in filling this position was somebody who could bring consistency of process, continual improvement, enhance the communication, both internally and externally. As we've talked several times, the goal of this administration is to really push the service delivery within the city down to the neighborhood level, whether we're talking about police or code or anything that we're doing, and really build the relationships with the neighborhoods. And all of you have had those conversations with your constituents. And so we think Sasha is going to be a very important part of that. So we're excited about her starting, which is next week. And we're excited about what she's going to bring to this organization. The second thing I would like to just touch on this last Saturday was the Red Stocking Breakfast. I saw a couple of you there. I got quite busy serving gravy and something else. I don't remember. Oh, sausage. So it was quite exciting, a good opportunity to meet with people and very exciting. So I also noticed, what's that? All right. I noticed also that my wife has been scurrying about quite a bit and a little bit more secretive than normal and hiding things. And it dawned on me probably a day or two ago that Christmas is coming next week. So we're going to unbury ourselves for a little bit and enjoy the family. And I wish all of you the same.
Thank you. And welcome, Sasha. Glad to have you here joining us. Look forward to working with you. I want to clarify one item that there's been a couple questions or interest in, and that is that no public funds were used in the mayor's Christmas card. They were all paid out of private funds, the artist, printing cards, mailing, et cetera. So in case anyone has a question about that. Second item, I want to wish Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends and Jewish people in the community, which began at sundown this evening, which is a festival of lights. It's a very important holiday in the Jewish community. Third, my office had several calls today pertaining to the responding to the Department of Administration's request that the city didn't respond in 45 days with suggestions on a move with some docking employees that are being tentatively relocated to the Dillon's building on 29th Street between Kansas and Topeka. The city has been in discussions with the State Department of Administration for the last 6 months. I think we have had an excellent working relationship. The comments made on Monday sounded like we are adversarial to one another. To my perspective, that is not the case. We have worked together, and we were aware of this decision and the direction it was going because this is the Division of Motor Vehicles, and the idea was that this is the entity that uses where there are a lot of public employees coming in and out. The decision was made to place it where there is a large parking lot. And I think those of us that use the motor vehicle department would agree that's a very high priority. I would point out that from the people or the employees in the docking building, 204 employees are being placed in the Scott building, 240 are in the Athene building, 335 are in the Mills building. That's 779 employees, or almost 780 employees, are being placed on Kansas Avenue or within 1 block. I think that's very significant. They will be, in a sense, on Kansas Avenue, whereas now the docking building is about 3 blocks away. So we're gaining a great deal. There's only 213 employees that will be relocated to the Dillon's building. So out of the approximately 1,000 employees, over 800 or around 800 are staying in the downtown and actually on Kansas Avenue. So I think that's an important win for the city and for downtown. And then just very briefly, for the close of the year, 2014, this year, we had been a community that celebrated in some respects and also had trials. Certainly in September, we mourned the loss of Corporal Harwood. The community came together for that. In May, we had the visit of the First Lady, Michelle Obama, where all the 3 public high schools gathered together for commencement. 2 important things that perhaps we remember out of 2014. And at the same time, we had many public hearings. I think certainly a new record. I think that's great. Community people, citizens are having more opportunity to air their views, I think, than any time else in the history of the city. And we also aired our views on such things as what statues should be on Kansas Avenue and what we should name the zoo's new cubs. So all of these things are important. And also in 2014, I think I saw the council working together in collaboration with our citizens. I think that's what we're about, what the city is about. So we look forward to 2015, building on what we have in 2014. There'll be new trials, new issues, new celebrations, but we look forward to 2015 with new vigor. With that, I wish happy holidays and happy new year. And we go to Councilwoman Del Isla.
Thank you, Mayor Wolgast. Just want to say to everybody out there that remember that although this is a season that we share each other's companies, there's great organizations in our community doing some amazing stuff. We have Silverback doing some silver stockings. Over 155, if I'm correct, stockings were made to give to children that may need. Also, I hear that the Christmas Bureau may still have some families, so if you have that time, just give of your time. It doesn't take much. The lists are very simple and they're inexpensive. So if you have it in your heart and in your treasures to go ahead and do so, spread the joy. I would echo the sentiments of the mayor that it really has been a remarkable year. It has been a very challenging year. I don't think that, maybe because now I'm here, but I don't think that I have seen so many things show up on a regular basis with regards to our city. And I think that one of the things that we fail to recognize is that there's a lot of movement occurring, and it's because there's a lot of work being done. When you're making change, change comes hard. And you have to stir the pot in order for you to be able to turn it around and get things going. And I think that this council body has worked so hard with the constituents. We have a staff that has just worked extremely hard to make sure that we do the best thing that we can do. And it was a lot of fun to come here today and be able to, for the first time in a while, laugh with everybody that's around this table. We had something to talk, each and every one of us, about something that each of us were sharing. And that was absolutely wonderful. This is a spirit that has not been seen in this council for many, many, many years. And I want to thank all of my colleagues because it's really been a pleasure. I'm very thankful to work with all of you. Finally, I would like to say to all of you out there that I know that for some of you the holidays are fabulous, but for some of us the holidays are hard because some of us may not have any family. So what I encourage you to do is give somebody a smile. Some of us are losing people. Some of us has lost. Some of us are going through significant financial challenges. Some of us don't have anybody other than our immediate children to call our relatives and are accustomed to something very different than what we have right now. And I tell you what, kindness goes a long way. So in this season, rather than gifts, if you can do so, but more than anything, give of your kindness to your neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Manspeaker. Councilwoman Schwartz.
Yes, thank you. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, and we came from the Capitol, the lighting of the menorah. And every time I go in that building after it's been refurbished, I think the treasure that we have here in our capital city. And I got an email this week from somebody about, this is a capital place, and we need to start building more on the capital place. And I hope to see in 2015 that is one of the things that we do, is to emphasize that we are a capital city and we all work together, both the city and the state, in making Kansas a great state. The governor delivered a message about religious freedom at this time of year, and that is something that we all celebrate in America. I wanted to also comment to Chief Brown that his information that he's putting on the next door that's getting out to all the neighborhoods, I think it will help reduce crime. I think that's awesome. And then today we got an email from the field operations director telling us who our community policing officers were in our areas. And that was a first for me. I felt that is so special to be, as a council person, to get this information of who these are our community policing officers. And it's such an important time right now that we know that. And I want to end on the fact that tomorrow I'm going to a Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods meeting with the Kansas Health Foundation, and we're talking about the health of Kansas and the health of our community. And I know it's the holiday time, so I don't want to tell anybody to be careful, but do keep your health in mind this season so that we can have a healthy and happy 2015. So we'll see you next year.
Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. I just want to say Happy Hanukkah, Christmas, and New Year's.
Councilman Harmon. Councilwoman Hiller.
Got a few things. Thank you, Mayor, for your report about the docking and the state workers downtown. I think people did not know that toll package, and it's important. And thank you for all of your efforts on that, in that regard as well as downtown Topeka. I know that they were involved, and the city manager. I appreciate your annual overview as well. And I want to welcome Sasha Stiles. We've all been looking forward to having you come. I assume there was a really good reason that December 22nd had to be your first day, but thank you for going ahead and accepting the job to start right in the holidays. It really has been quite a week, actually, since we last met. I wanted to give Chief Brown and the city manager some props for getting the SRO situation resolved with 501. I hope it wasn't too quick to put that together, but I appreciate that it's resolved and that we are supporting them. At the same time, I hope we make good use of this coming year to study what's really needed and what's appropriate with 501 and with the schools. I personally see, when we look at why we developed the limited SRO offer that we made in the first place and how it's developed, it was as much for the schools as the community around them. And we've really increased our focus on community policing, and SROs really fit in with that. 501 is making some advances in their school buildings, and so I'm really eager for some good conversations to happen that work out what's best for everyone, the students most importantly, of course, that's still cost effective and uses the other talents that the schools have there. Had some conversations with folks who reminded me that back in the day, it was the janitor that everybody really knew that kind of kept everybody going, and they're still there too. There are lots of things that the schools are offering. It's been quite a week in District 1, and a week of crime, some tragedy. Just wanted to say, because we had both a police-involved shooting that is always a tragedy no matter what the circumstances, and also at the same time a substantial fire to a business. I just wanted to say first, sort of whether I needed to or not, that I love District 1, and it's a really great place to live, and there are great people there who support one another and support the community, and I feel safe there. And again, that's important to all of us, but just because these things happen some places sometimes, it doesn't mean more than that. These really were tragedies. We had also, in the course of the week, the situation where a homeowner shot an intruder, and that's tragic for the intruder and their family and friends. Certainly was tragic for that homeowner. In the case of the police-involved shooting, the situations that young man was involved with were tragic for him and the others involved, and certainly for the officers who did their jobs and by all reports did it very well. But it still is hard to have to go through those situations. And the fire department as well was right out, took care of that fire, got it put out, even though there was damage. So I wanted to offer condolences to everyone who's suffering through those events, and at the same time offer support and thanks to them and their friends, their colleagues, their families for all that they do every day. And I see both fire chief and police chief here in the back, and thank you on my behalf and on all of ours, I think, to your entire teams. And with that, we treasure all the good things that we have, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you. Councilman Brown?
Well, I want to start by echoing my support and encouraging anyone who has the means to support the efforts of the Christmas Bureau. Last I knew, there was still 400 or so families that were in need of adoption. So if there's any time of the year to be our brother's keeper, this is that time of year. So please consider that. I wanted to thank our council office staff, Amber and Angela, for all the support they provided us this year, and wish a happy first post-retirement Christmas to Jenny Burkhart, who none of us will ever forget. And then to everyone in Topeka, I wish you a safe and happy holidays with your family and your friends.
Councilwoman Ortiz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, especially to my colleague Richard over there. We've been here since 2005, but anyway. And I only have one question for the city manager. Are you the WIBW Santa Claus?
I'm not.
Just checking.
I'm sorry. I wish I was. That would have been kind of exciting.
That's all.
Deputy Mayor, ever? Well, thank you all. That completes our our announcements. We have one person for public comment, Mr. Joe Ledbetter.
First off, the politically incorrect statement of Merry Christmas to everybody out there, and Happy Hanukkah. That's quite a story how that oil kept burning for 8 days. I actually believe that story. I do believe in miracles. I actually believe someday we're going to have transparency with Go Topeka, or whoever's the successor. I'm going to go ahead and touch back on last JADO meeting, because it is the end of the year. It's just got to be dealt with. There was a statement saying that there was confusion about public monies being transferred to the Chamber of Commerce. So tonight, I diligently have made copies. I'm sorry these are in order, but I just ran out of time. Didn't get them stapled together. But anyway, there's enough here, first off, for the clerk, and then one for each of the JADO members. I'm sorry I didn't make extras. I just ran out of time. But anyway, they go from an overview to 2011, 2012 is the next one, 2013, 2014. And where these came from is these were given to me as a core request from the Capital Journal to a story they ran back in September. I asked them for the foundation, and they gave it to me. So if you will please look at these, I would appreciate it first for the clerk, and then to all the JADO members, which includes the council and the mayor. Now, what we're talking about is $1.5 million worth of expenses that were given to the Chamber of Commerce. I cannot find any language in JADO and the minutes and the contracts that gives anybody that authority to transfer that money to the Chamber of Commerce. But the second thing is, part of that, I have said that that is an inaccurate number anyway, because under oath, Go Topeka chairman, Mr. Kinzinger, says that he transfers almost $900,000 or approximately $900,000 each of the last 3 years. Those are signed under, I said under oath, they're sworn as accurate in 990s that he files with the IRS. So the confusion supposedly was that that amount is different from that, but I went back and looked at the JADO board minutes, which are online, and in 2012-13, and I'm reading from it, so you can check this out, page 7 and 8, Alan Toll, Go Topeka board chairman, and then I'm going to paraphrase a little bit because I'm going to get right to his words. He referenced $800,000 in management fees, which I had brought up, listed in the 990 tax forms, and he stated that the $800,000 is used to pay salaries of Greater Topeka Chamber of Commerce employees and reimbursed by Go Topeka money to the Topeka Chamber of Commerce. Well, that's their chair, and he says it was at least $800,000. So I don't know why we had that confusion from a spokesperson for Go Topeka at the last meeting, trying to say there was confusion about it. There's no confusion on this party. It is close or more than $900,000 a year. So on that note, I want to finish on time for once. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the help you gave to Highcrest this year as a president, and Happy New Year.
Thank you for your comments. That completes the public comments for this evening. Councilman, we do have council members, we have an executive session. If the city attorney would state the parameters for that.
Yes, I would just request a motion to go to executive session for 20 minutes to discuss personnel issues with the elected officials, the city manager, myself, and Police Chief James Brown.
All right, is there such a motion? Councilwoman Ortiz has moved to go into executive session on those parameters. Is there a second? Councilwoman Schwartz seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
Mr. Schmidt? We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, we will go into an executive session when the room is empty.